How does consumption respond to house price changes?
In terms of consumption, so when house prices go up, what we see happening is that households decide to borrow more money. So they think they've become wealthy or the wealth has increased, and the question then is, how do they respond? So there's two ways they can respond that we think of. One is that they start spending more, they borrow more and they spend it on things they like holidays. And the other thing is that they invest more. And what we find is that they're borrowing more against the house and then investing it in making the houses better or in other housing. So I think there's a distinction between when house prices go up, do people take the money out of the house and spend it on things they enjoy, or do they invest it further into things which will give them a return later? And I think one of the things we find is that, and one of the key things we find is that people are investing more. So they're investing more in their housing, they're actually buying more housing, and so we see that that has been the kind of main mechanism. It's not that people are going and spending money on holidays.
Mm-hmm. And do households keep their owner-occupied houses until death, or they sell them at some point to finance their retirement?
So there's actually remarkably little selling of houses to finance retirement. I think what people do, there's some evidence that what people are doing is they're borrowing against the house they've got to finance consumption in retirement. So it's not that they're actually selling the house and moving to smaller houses, it's that they are taking money out of the house by borrowing against the equity that they have in the house. So it's not that they're kind of selling the house, they are keeping the houses, but they've just got debt against that house. And I think part of it is because of this desire to leave the house to their children or to pass on the homes to their children rather than to sell them.
Mm-hmm. And how can we relate your results or your researches to the origin of the Great Recession in Spain or the US? You know, if we can try some difference or...
Yeah, so I think if I think about what happened in Spain in particular and what is kind of consistent with our evidence for the UK is that when house prices started to rise in Spain, the question is, why do they keep on rising so fast? And I think what was going on is people saw house prices were rising, they were doing well in terms of their returns, and so then they borrowed more money and they spent that on more housing. And so what you have is you have this cycle of the house prices rise. It's not that people then sold the housing and took the money. It's people were then borrowing more money to buy more housing. So you have this kind of spiral upwards, and house prices rise. People then demand more housing. Prices rise further. And you end up with house prices becoming sort of out of control, if you like. And I think that's what was going on in Spain and the UK, and a bit of that in the US. I think the US is slightly different, because in the US, house prices, although they went up, they didn't go up nearly as much as they did in Spain or in the UK. And so you don't see quite the same strength of effects. But you do still see this aspect of house prices going up, people borrow more, and then spending the money on housing, which causes house prices to go up further.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you.